I bet you guys will disagree with me, but the best thing to do in San Francisco is to leave the city. And it's not an easy opinion to hold because San Francisco is easily one of the coolest cities I've ever been to. It's the homeland of Lucasfilms, the birthplace of the Beat movement. It has the perfect balance of relaxed attitudes and vehement opposition against war to start the Summer of Love and the coinciding hippie movement. It was ground zero for Silicon Valley. And if New York impacted gay rights with the Stonewall protests, then San Francisco balanced the weight on the opposite side of the country. San Francisco is the kind of city that shows its history through neighborhood facades. Victorian homes with front yard gardens spilling over the cement walls like cactus waterfalls. Weathered gray docks with a mariner's boot print, and permeating smell lingering from last century's fish markets. And of course, a pride parade that would shame the attempt in any other city. There is so much to discover here. But I'm not here for Alcatraz, the Painted Ladies, or Ghirardelli. San Francisco is a launching point for me to go north, where I'm going to see a species that's older than the Roman Empire and dwarfs even the giant personality and cultural appeal of the city. I'm going to see the massive trees native to Northern California, the Redwoods and the Sequoias. I started my morning early, leaving San Francisco around 9 a.m. The trip in total up to the Redwoods is going to be about 5 hours, and I wanted to make sure I arrived while there's plenty of daylight outside. But first, I do need some coffee. This funky little coffee shop was called Rockin' A Adventure Cafe off of Route 101 in Cloverdale. The coffee was pretty good, and the location, of course, as you can see, is very convenient. Though, in an effort to be a better traveler, I try to keep my tourist dollars as close to the community as possible. So rather than stopping at a global chain, it was a great experience stumbling upon this little coffee hut on the side of the road. Fun fact for you though, this was my first road trip I had ever taken. I was living my American dream cruising up the 101. This route up north is scenic with vineyard fields and farms stretching long into pastures. Okay, let's go back to the trees. While these two species of living giants are often referred to interchangeably, there are a few notable differences between the redwoods and the sequoias. For one, redwoods are the tallest trees, but sequoias by far are the largest by volume. While you're driving up north, you'll actually pass some sequoia trees as these grow a little bit more south than the redwoods. If you're wondering why that is, it's because the foggy weather of Northern California maintains a high volume of moisture in the air, which the redwoods are particularly fond of. Though what's really interesting about these giants aren't simply their size, though that in itself is definitely nothing to sneeze at. For example, the General Sherman tree in Humboldt State Park has a 36-foot diameter tree trunk, for goodness sake. What I find really interesting is that California is home to some of the oldest trees, and actually some of the oldest organisms on the planet. Sequoias live a long time. Some of them are over 3,000 years old. They are among the oldest living organisms on the planet. That leads me to my second fun fact. If you want to see the oldest known living thing on the planet, you're going to have to head to Eastern California, where there is a Great Basin bristlecone pine tree. That was alive even when the Pyramids of Giza were being built. I arrived to a more rustic side of Northern California, where the vineyards turned into evergreens. Then, all of a sudden, I looked up to see a canopy of trees stretching high into the sky. I had finally made it into redwoods territory. For your first visit into the redwoods, I strongly suggest you take a few minutes or even an hour just to walk around. It's truly breathtaking to explore these living giants, and honestly, no YouTube video or blog post about them prepared me for the experience in real life. Their bark is not unlike the wrinkled skin of your grandparents. The age you see on their hands tells a story of the life that they lived, as do these trees. For this experience, I came to Humboldt National Park, which has 417 different trails to give you plenty of new perspectives. You know that old saying that goes, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, did it actually happen? Well, when a redwood tree falls, you might not hear it, but you will definitely see it. A redwood tree falling is not unlike a building collapse, and when one of these giants fall into the pathway, it's pretty hard to clear. So what is a ranger to do? Well, typically they'll just cut a rectangle through the center and let you walk through the middle instead of clearing it. There's a nice mix of inner wood trails which are perfect for explorers on two legs, and you can also bring your dog. If you prefer to accelerate on wheels, then check out the paved roads open to cyclists, motorcyclists, and those who want to cruise through the tree-shaded roads with their windows down. You simply could get lost in this place. But for now, it's time for me to move on. I was recommended this spot by my Airbnb host, a fantastic woman who is a lifetime Californian. In order to get here, you have to take a drive down a long, winding road that is not paved. It's miles from the highway, and the cell service here is spotty at best. To be honest, I started to get a little nervous about the rental car and also about myself, because I thought, well, if I do get stuck here, then no one is going to find me. Luckily, that didn't happen, and at a certain point, my fears started to get replaced with giddy excitement. I mean, it was my first road trip, and I was ripping down an unpaved road with no cell service. If there was going to be a bad end to the day, it would have made for a hilarious story. At the end of this long road, I arrived at a place that is both stunning and seemingly untouched by humans. Seemingly, because this place was featured in a Hollywood movie. It's called Fern Canyon, and maybe you recognize it from that scene in Jurassic Park. Despite the movie being internationally famous, it's still relatively unknown among visitors. Aside from the luscious ferns that grow on the hills, almost like green walls enclosed around you, there are fields of grass and marshland where the elk like to graze. The path I was following turned from cold pebbles and ferns to sand as I came closer to the coastline. This crumbly road was overgrown with yellowing hay and evergreen trees. Then, something poked its head out from the interior of a parallel field, followed by 2 more heads. A herd of grazing elks curiously examined me from a distance. I stood still with my camera, sharing a moment as an ant among giants. It had been my goal to see the redwoods at some point in my life, but I ended up experiencing a lot more than just big trees. On my first journey to the West Coast, I found a totally new perspective on my home country. I realized it's possible to be a tourist in a place where you speak the language and share the culture. I wasn't expecting to be so impacted by the experience, but here I am, a Northeastern girl sharing a secret love affair for the West.